fancy. Ladies, how about medium and wide width dress pumps, sling bags, flats, wedges, sandals, tennis, nursing shoes, career kicks, and Crocs. Men, check out our dress and casual shoes, tennis, cleats, sandals, work boots, and water shoes. And for children, dress shoes, casual, school shoes, tennis, cleats, sandals, ballet, jazz, christening, and bedroom shoes. So complete your look at Richie's Calypso, your #1 family-friendly footwear store.
Good morning again, Facebook, and welcome to another edition of Real Talk. Today promises, as all of our other shows, to be a very, very informative show. We have with us as our guest in studio the Royal Bahamas Police Force Sexual Offences Unit. And as many of you know, we have done several shows with sexual abuse victims. And of course, our cry is to educate you, the public, and to also give you information that can help you if you are a sexual abuse victim, get help, or for those of you who may suspect that someone is being sexually abused. And today, that is what the topic is going to be focused on. We're going to hear from the law of the land, and we're going to hear about how we can help a sexual abuse victim, or how, if we ourselves are one, how we can get help. There's a lot of information that's going to be imparted. I have with me today Sergeant Latoya Roll, who is in charge of the Sexual Offences Unit here in Freeport, and she's already started giving me so much information before we even got on camera. So she's just going to give us a guidance as to how we can go about dealing with the situation. We know that unfortunately it's very prevalent in our society, and based on even a lot of the shows that we've had and the messages, there's so many women that have suffered at the hands of sexual abuse. So we want to keep this conversation going, and we want to give you, the viewing audience, the information that you need. Now, before we continue, as I always do, I need to mention my sponsors, because without them, this would not happen. And I want to say a great big thank you to 5-Star Shipping for partnering with us, for believing in what we're doing here at Real Talk, and for putting their money where their mouth is. So listen, if you need anything from Florida, Neil and the guys down there at 5-Star Shipping is the place to go. 5-Star Shipping is located on Milton and Keith Street. Their telephone number is 352-3544, and they're open Monday through Friday. So, you know, they do custom brokerage, they do the freight forwarding, they do the courier service. So listen to all you Bahamians who always say you don't have no money, but you keep ordering stuff. Go down there to Neil and the guys at 5-Star Shipping, and they will hook you up. Their prices are amazing. The service is great. You know, Neil has been in business for over 20 years, so he's definitely a professional as it relates to shipping. So for all of your shipping needs, we want you to check Neil and his staff down at 5-Star Shipping out, okay? So thank you again. And our second partner for the day is none other than Richie's Calypso. And we all know, if you have been in Grand Bahama for more than a hot minute, you know Richie's Calypso. Richie's Calypso has been down there in the Churchill Square for more than 40 years. They have been serving the local Grand Bahama community. And we want to encourage you to keep supporting them. You know, you're going to get friendly service. Rhonda and the girls are really nice. They have a wide variety of footwear, starting from size 0 straight up to size 15. So listen, give Richie's a holler down there. What are your most reported matters? Like, what type of sexual offenses do you find are most reported to your division?
Hands down, we have the unlawful sexual intercourse. That is one of our most reported matters. Okay. And as I said earlier in my introduction, unlawful sexual intercourse is basically anyone under the age of 16 engaging in sex. Now, whether or not the child says yes or no, once they have not attained the age of 16, they cannot give consent. So oftentimes you find where these teenagers, especially, you know, once they reach grade 8 and grade 9, you know, they're experimenting. And they find themselves in little mischief. They either have their little school boyfriend, or for some, at some point they also have older males who they would date. You know, a lot of older males for some reason tends to prey on these younger females. So unlawful sex by far is our most reported matter.
And what about, because my show was focused on this previously, what about sexual offenses against young children by their relatives? Is that, you don't get too much of that coming into your...
From time to time, we will have matters where young children, and when you say young, I take it that you mean primary school age and younger.
Yeah, like anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 13, 14, you know.
From time to time, we do have matters reported by relatives or parents on behalf of their children where they are abused by persons inside the home. Oftentimes, we will find where parents do not report those type of matters if complaints or allegations are being levied against someone in the home, whether it's another sibling or it's a child. They like to, in our Bahamian term, work it out amongst themselves, and we totally discourage that. It is against the law to try to work anything as it relates to minors at home or work out amongst yourselves.
So that is actually very prevalent, because I had a guest show who voiced that her mother did nothing as it related to the sexual abuse that she was being subjected to from her father. So what you're saying, Sergeant, if I'm correct, is that is actually very common, because I was aghast when she said that. I'm like, you know your child being molested and you're not doing anything about it. You're not reporting this person to the police. But based on what you're saying that's fairly common among Bahamian families.
We do have incidents where we find and somehow it comes to our attention, and we totally, like I said, Mrs. Poe, we discourage that behavior, and that is actually a criminal offense. If persons are found to be negligent in reporting matters involving minors, there is a charge that can be levied against them failing to report an abuse of a minor. And the penalty for that is 3 years or $5,000, and in some cases both. So you can find yourself on the wrong side of the law for not reporting matters as it relates to little children or young persons. You have to report it. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you are made aware that something is going on towards a child, may I encourage you, please, you have to report the matter, because we take a zero tolerance approach with persons who try to cover things up against little children.
Okay, I didn't know that, and I applaud that, because I do think you should be charged if you know that a child is being harmed and you do not report that. But Sergeant, we're going to take a quick break. A lot of information, there's a lot to digest there, people. Please, again, if you have questions, tune in. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back, so stay tuned.
So, what's your fancy? Ladies, how about medium and wide with dress pumps, sling bags, flats, wedges, sandals, tennis, nursing shoes, career kicks, and Crocs? Men, check out our dress and casual shoes, tennis, cleats, sandals, work boots, and water shoes. And for children, dress shoes, casual, school shoes, tennis, cleats, sandals, ballet, jazz, christening, and bedroom shoes. So complete your look at Richie's Calypso, your #1 family-friendly footwear store.
Okay, all right, we are back, and as you can see, I was checking my feed I just wanted to acknowledge all of you that are tuned in, our supporters. I see we have Janet Munnings. Thank you, Janet. Off Sergeant Roll, she says the show is very interesting. We also have Cindy Gaudet, who's actually on the show previously and is a sexual abuse victim. And she was saying, Sergeant Roll, where were you when she was young? And then we have Enoch. Thank you, Enoch, for tuning in. So I can only see a few of the comments, but that's what I've seen thus far. Again, I want to encourage you, if you have any questions for Sergeant Roll, she has a lot of information as you've seen. So please feel free to put it on the feed and we can address it before the show is over. Okay, so Sergeant Roll was just telling us that there is a penalty in place for persons who fail to report the sexual abuse of a minor child. So that was interesting to know, and I'm glad that you said that, and I want to issue that warning. You may not do what I'll do. I want to issue that warning to all persons out there, especially those who are close to children who are being abused and you are doing nothing about it. Be warned that if that is discovered, you can face some jail time, which I hate to say it, I think you would be deserving of. Because if a child is being hurt or abused, it is your responsibility as the adult in that situation to get help to that child. You know, so continuing from there, I wanted to ask you, okay, let's say, example again, I'm a neighbor. I suspect that some sexual abuse is going on across the street for whatever reason, because this is something that I've actually heard so many times, and it's amazing to me that in our society, you do have people, they'll say, well, child, yeah, something isn't right in that house. And they actually know these things, but we do nothing about it. And like I told you when we were off air, one of the reasons that we're doing this show is we want to bring that awareness, and we want to encourage people to do not do nothing. Because if a child is being harmed, I mean, you just don't know how messed up this child becomes because of being exposed to something that this child is not supposed to be exposed to. I don't think we realize how much a child is hurt. We have adult women hurting, struggling, even 20, 30 years later who've been abused because they just cannot cope with what would have occurred. We have women who are struggling in their marriages, who cannot even have a proper sexual relationship with their husbands because they would have suffered at the hands of an abuser during their youth. You know, there's so many repercussions that women who suffer sexual abuse go through. And I don't think that we realize how much that child is being hurt, because if we did, maybe we as a community would do more about it. So let's say I'm that neighbor. I suspect something is going on, that a child in that house or children may be abused. How do I go about, Sergeant, helping that child?
Okay, that's an awesome question, because I'm sure that many persons find themselves in the same situation, and you don't want to be labeled as the nosy neighbor, of course.
Right.
So here's what can happen, and it's quite simple. You can either call the police station without giving any information. You do not have to come if you don't want to come. Right. You can also present yourself to the Department of Social Services, and you can give them the information. Right. They will follow up on the matter on your behalf, and if it's something that warrants the police attention, then we will be notified. Right. So they're your pick. You can present yourself to the police station, or you can call in as an anonymous caller, or you can present yourself to social services and give the information. And we have had persons in the past that explore all of those avenues. They want to report something. They do not want to be named, no way, form, or fashion in the report. And so they come to us and they give information, and we encourage persons to do it, you know, and it do not have to be something that they know is concrete. So the information don't have to be concrete, but if you suspect something is happening and you want it to be looked into further from someone that deals with it, a professional, then by all means, you have to share that information with someone. And at any time, you can call the Central Detective Unit. The telephone number for us is 350-3106-9. The direct number for sexual offenses, and we all fall under the umbrella of the Central Detective Unit, 350-3095. And you can speak to an officer. If I am not there, you can ask for my work schedule if you want to speak with me directly,
Give us
or
your
you
name again.
and I am Sergeant 2949 Latoya Rule. So you can come there and you can speak with us, or you can speak to us over the phone, and we can get as much information as you have that we can possibly get from you, and I can guarantee you the matter will be looked into and it will be attended. So you don't have to provide us with your name, your
Okay.
telephone contact, your address, your date of birth, nothing. Just call the police, say to the police that, look, I have some information, even if you don't want to draw a reference that your neighbor or how you came in contact with the family, you can just say, well, okay, grade 3 student at Walter Parker School, her name is so-and-so, or I think she is in grade 3, but this is her name. I need you all to do something with that because I feel she is being abused, and say why you feel that she is being abused. And Mrs. Bowe, even though we're talking about sexual abuse, let's not limit at this point to just sexual abuse. Even if you find that children are being physically abused, then of course by all means you want to report that as well. Okay, so please, as whatever information you have, you can share it with the police. Feel free, feel safe in sharing the information. You do not, and let me stress, you do not have to provide your name, nothing pertaining to yourself to the police, or even when you go to the Department of Social Services, they will speak to you, and everything that is said is kept confidential. We won't make reference to who you are, even if we see you in person. I cannot overemphasize that. So please, don't be fearful. We need to be our brothers and sisters' keeper. And at the same time, we need to protect our nation, darlings, our little children who are unable to protect themselves.
Exactly. Well said, Sergeant Rule. And I mean, listen, we have no excuse now. We have no excuse because to be honest, I did not realize it was that easy.
Yes, it's very easy.
And I did not realize that our identity could be kept anonymous.
Yes.
I always thought that if you were to get involved and go to the station and report something, that we would have to be involved in the actual case.
No, you don't have to be involved. So please, don't be afraid. Your name. I've had situations where persons came either through social services or directly to the police, and they gave information. And at no point, I did not even write their name anywhere. So, and you know, we're dealing with so much people on a daily basis. So to remember Krishna Bowe, honestly, you know, we're just dealing with so much people. So we want to assure you that your name would not be mentioned. Your name would not be mentioned in any court proceedings, that you were the person that brought the matter to the police. And the thing about it, the police have a thing about using tact with getting to the thing. So how it would come across, you would not even know that someone actually came to the police, honestly.
And I want to mention that because unfortunately, I think sometimes in society we have a negative view of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And I think that can play into the psyche of a lot of people who may say, well, I ain't going there because they ain't really can help us. And then they can only put my name out there, you know, police is talky business and all these other things. So I'm glad that you're speaking the way you're speaking, because I think we need to realize that in many cases, the police force is there to help.
Yes.
And we need to use the law to our advantage, especially if it involves the protection of a child.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you mentioned that, Sergeant Rule.
And Ms. Bowe, if I may add, we always try to discourage parents about talking to their children's situation to other people. Sometimes things come to their attention, and out of anger, you know, they just get on the phone and call everyone, this is what my child did, or this is what's happening, or this is what this one person do. And we always try to tell them, you know, look, you're dealing with children. You don't want to put your children out there, so you need to be very careful when you're talking your children's business. And see, and then sometimes it could be interpreted that the police is spreading the information, but sometimes you have the parents.
You are the one who's
spreading the information. Like the other day, I had an incident where a child had to be taken to the hospital to be examined.
Right.
And when the mommy became aware of the allegation, the mommy, she went off her rockers and she's screaming at the child, and everyone, the hospital was crowded at that point. And we had to calm it down. Look, you cannot do that. You cannot do that, because then you're angry now, and this is your outburst. When things are calmer, then you have societies to face. Who knows your business only through you carrying on at the hospital.
My mother-in-law isn't tuned in today, but I can tell you she gave me one piece of advice when I started dating her son. She said, whatever you put out in the public, remember, you can never
take it back. And I agree with that statement. What you give the world, you cannot take it back. So a lot of times, and I'm not saying that it perhaps didn't happen before, but personally, a lot of times I find it's the family that's putting it out there,
more guilty and of the business being spread.
Moreover than anyone else, because we have a job to do, and we know that our job, the area especially, is a very confidential and strict area. You can really find yourself being dismissed for divulging information that you're not supposed to be divulging. So I would hate to believe that an officer will do that. But again, I cannot swear for anyone, and I won't swear for anyone. But what I am saying and what I've seen, because sometimes people in our office and they're giving a statement, and that's parents or whomever, and they on the phone and they calling all these people and informing them, I'm by the police. This is what this person, this is what my child do, and I'm like, no, you cannot be doing that. This is something you're dealing with your child, and I don't feel it should be where you're exposing so much other people to the information.
Wow, listen, Sergeant Roll, you're awesome. That is such great advice, because that puts a different spin on it, because just like I said, we say the police spreading our business, but like you say, you spreading your own business. Because you're having, and unfortunately, we women, we're such emotional and passionate creatures that a lot of times you don't think before you speak. And I think that is definitely something to remember, that in many cases, we are the ones guilty of actually getting that child's business out there, as opposed to the officers,
Right. And also, I would say this to you, too. When the child has to be, or anyone for that reason, has to be taken to the hospital to be medically examined for cases of sexual assault, when we go to the hospital and present ourselves, the hospital staff is very accommodating. They secure us as quick as possible into a room. So we're not sitting out with the general public, waiting for your name to be called. Once they identify us and we present ourselves to the triage window, once we're finished with the registration process, we're in the back and we're secure in the room, and no one really knows what you come for until we, of course, meet with the doctor and the nurse and explain whatever little details that they need to know. Even with coming to the police station, even though everyone there, for the most part, are police officers or work in the police environment, they do not even have the intricate details as to what is being reported. Our office is secure and it's very comfortable, and only the victim, in the case where a parent or a guardian is there for a juvenile child, or in cases of adult complaint, whomever they cause as their support system, is inside this office. So it's not like we're sitting out in an open area where everybody can hear, Miss Bo, this is the information Miss Bo is giving, and we're talking so loud, and persons moving through the office are able to hear the information.
Is so enlightening.
Everything that is done quietly and in a confidential manner. So I must assure you of that. So your business, only what you put out there, even when the matters goes before the court, the courtroom is closed during hearings, trials of sexual natures and stuff like that. So the public will, everybody say, if you want no business in the courthouse. But for these type of matters, you don't have an open courtroom. Just the persons who are part of the trial are there. So please, if you want to at least make you comfortable to know that your business will not be placed out there. Your identity would not be named in any media, newspaper, on the news, or everything is generalized. If someone is going to be arraigned for a matter of rape, the papers or the media, for that reason, would only say, well, an adult male is being arraigned or was arraigned on 4 counts of rape against various females throughout the district. So they would not even generalize, well, the lady who lived through Bonefish Street or whatever the case may be.
So confidentiality is a very, very high priority.
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. And you, again, you're shedding a lot of light on this situation, you know. We have D. Tamara telling us that I can personally say that Mrs. Roll, Sergeant Roll, is a very professional officer.
Thank you.
So that is so good. And we do have a comment here from Joanne Gibbs in Nassau. She says they have a lot of kids missing. And she's asking, I think she's trying to ask, are there any missing in Grand Bahama? I mean, that isn't the topic of our show today, but do we have a lot of missing children in Grand Bahama?
No, very rare do we have missing kids. And when we have children who's reported missing in Grand Bahama, for the most part, it'll be some miscommunication, like mommy picked the child up, daddy doesn't know, but we don't have any overnight missing children on the island.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Thank goodness for that.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank God. Thank God. Okay, boy, this information is very, very interesting. And Candisha Lang is saying to you, well said, officer, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And so I'm letting you know these positive comments, because there are a lot of us in the community, you know, we're working with, we don't view the Royal Bahamas Police Force as a negative, especially when it comes to helping the children. We want to do all that we can do to ensure that together we can work to help them.
Right.
So on that note, I'm going to go into the different resources. If I am a sexual abuse victim, let's say that I'm 11 years old, because I know when I had Cindy Gaudet on the show, she said to me that she had called the crisis hotline. I was like, a crisis hotline?
Yes.
I didn't even know that one existed.
Yes.
And she said to me that she called this hotline, and it did alert someone to the fact that she was being abused. So I want to know, how can a sexual abuse victim get help? Let's say the victim themselves are ready to do something, you know, how can they get help, and what resources do the Royal Bahamas Police Force, social services, what resources are in place to help this victim, you know, once they come forward?
Okay, for our sexual abuse victims, we have a few helping agencies that will be able to help them throughout their healing process. You have the Crisis Center, and that center now, I think, is headed by Mrs. Marva Moxie. They have a 24-hour hotline number, and the number for the Crisis Center is 352-4357. Of course, we have the Department of Social Services, and they will be the persons who will assign the victim, whether it be adult or children, to the various counseling sessions, and their number is 352-9851. That's 352-9851. You have the police department. You can either call 911 or, like I said, the Central Detective Unit at 350-3106 through 9. So that's 350-3106-78 or 9. Directly to the Sexual Offences Office is 350-3095. And again, like I said, you can always dial 911 and just say to the dispatcher that you would like to speak with someone from the Sexual Offences Unit, and they will be more than happy to transfer the call. So we have the Crisis Center who's able to lend support.
So if I'm a kid and I have this, I can just get on the phone and just make a call.
Yes, and for most part, if children are going to call, they're going to call 911 because that will be the number they really remember. Or they can call, and even with children, usually when we go into the schools, because we do a lot of school educational
Right. And do you
program
do this in all the schools or just the government schools?
government and private school. Whenever the opportunity presents itself, we will go into the various schools and from the primary, preschool level, primary level, and high
Right.
school level
I
to
think I
educate
recall someone coming there when my son was at Walter Park.
and to educate the children. And what we would often tell them, if you know your cry is not being heard at home, if you're making an alarm inside of the home and no one is doing it, you don't want to come and talk to your friends about it. Perhaps you may feel comfortable talking to a teacher, or you can go to the office. I think in most cases you have a guidance counselor or a senior mistress or the principal, whomever it is that you're comfortable with talking about the incident. If it's not being addressed from the home level, then by all means you can go to those persons. So you would find that matters would sometimes come to us through the school,
Right.
because the
I
child
know
would
that
go,
happening.
and especially you would find if they're on a sex educational topic, or not sex education, but family life, and you know the teachers making cautioning them about the various forms of touches, then I think at that point that will make them aware that look, that's a bad touch, and perhaps I need to talk to teacher about it. Okay. And I find that a lot of parents, they do not talk to their children about sex.
I was going to ask you, Sergeant Rule, we spoke a little bit about it off air, but I was going to ask you, okay, I'm a parent, and I mean I am a parent for real.
Yes.
I have a 12-year-old beautiful princess that I love dearly. As an officer, based on all of the experience, and for the record, people, she got a lot of experience. She's been in this unit for 7 years total thus far, and what is the greatest advice that you can give me? Because, you know, we as parents, sometimes we're ignorant. Yeah. And, you know, a predator is so skillful a lot of times, and so clever sometimes in the way that they abuse. So as parents, you know, if I'm not a predator, I don't have that type of mind. It's hard for me to know, even when it's being done, or know how to address it with my child. So I would ask, as a parent, and for all of the parents listening, what would you say we need to do as parents to, first of all, try and prevent it from happening to our kids as much as possible? And in addition, if it does happen, how can we be more aware that something is wrong? Okay.
I hope I have a couple minutes on this for this.
Go ahead, Sergeant. You have the floor.
Okay.
This is very important, parents. Very important.
Okay. We cannot overemphasize that parents need to take time with their children. Taking them to Burger King or taking them to the skating ring or to Port Lucaya, that is awesome. That is awesome. You're building relationship. You're strengthening the bond with your children. But you also need that me time together. You need to talk to your kids. And not just once, you know. You need to talk to them about life. You need to talk to them, educate them about sex education. We find that for some reason, parents do not like to talk about sex to their children. You know, it's nothing wrong about that. It's nothing wrong about talking about sex. Nothing wrong with talking about sex to your child or children, as the case may be. Sit them down, make the environment very comfortable and conducive. You need to speak in a language that they're able to understand. Sometimes, you know, the parents come off so harsh to the children, like the children, they're, you know, they so afraid to talk, you know. So I'm saying to you parents out there, please, you have to make the environment conducive to the children. And this has to be something that is continual and not just for today. You have to be aware, parents, of your children's company, their friends, their associates, as the case may be. You cannot continue to allow your children to go to these sleepovers. And when I'm saying children, I'm referring to males and females, because no one is exempted from a predator. And you have situations where males are preying on our young men. Okay? You cannot drop your child to Miss Bohouse And before the child gets inside or before Mrs. or Mr. Bo comes outside to receive your child, you already out the corner.
Right.
Who is to say that that child didn't use Miss Bo's daughter as an alibi for her getting out your house? And then next thing you listen, you get a call from the police. Oh, I need you to come to the hospital. And when the story unfolds, then you find out that your child never went to Miss Bo. You need to be in constant communication with your children, friends, their parents. You cannot allow your children to go to sleepover to these various hotels, and you don't seek to even find out who are the chaperones.
Right.
Because these kids are so crafty today in today's
Yes,
society.
of course.
They would allow an adult to book a room for them and their friends, and everything untoward would happen in there. Drinking, smoking, orgies, and the likes.
Right.
And then you're going to find out months later that your child is pregnant or they contracted some form of STI, STD, as the case may be.
Right.
And it leaves you in shock because
Right.
you're
When
trying
did
to
that
figure
happen?
out when did that happen. And
Right.
when you really get the story behind it, it was on the same occasion that you were so busy or so much in a hurry that you dropped your child to Mrs. Bo's home, and you did not even seek to speak to Mrs. Bo to see whether or not she's having a hosting a sleepover. So parents, we need to be more responsible, and we're not pointing our fingers towards anyone.
No, but
you
you're-
need to be more responsible.
Because that is the greatest deterrent.
Check these children bags. There's nowhere in history you can have a child living in your home and they have cell phones, they have iPad, they have Kindles, they have all of these other electronic devices, computers, laptops, and everything lock up like, you know, come on, you are a child. I'm going to allow you the opportunity to have this so you can be able to adapt to the change in society.
Right.
But at the same time, you don't want to let your guards down, because when you check some of these phones, then you will really discover who your children are. When you check these social media accounts, you really discover the things that your children are engaged in. So
yes.
you cannot let your guard down on the children. You want to be strict, you want to be firm, but you want to
Yes.
still allow them the opportunity to be, you know, groom themselves and be able to adapt in
So
society.
diligence
Yes.
is the key.
Yes,
And
it
that
is.
is the best measure that we can use
Yes.
as parents to hopefully prevent our children from becoming victims.
Yes, and as simple as a female, you know, every month you have a cycle. How is it that you as a mother do not know that your child hasn't seen their cycle for 2-3 months? You that busy? Are you that consumed that you're not checking for your child? And then, boom, 8-9 months later,
Oh, my
your
goodness.
child have a stomach ache. You go to the hospital, you have a grandchild.
Oh my goodness.
And we have seen that in the past. And
Wow.
come on, parents, we need to be more responsible. These children are placed in our lives for a reason and for a
Yes.
purpose. And we will do ourselves injustice if we continue to allow our children to go down the path of destruction.
Right, and I think what you said is very important, because I don't think parents realize a lot of times, first of all, not talking about sex doesn't make it go away.
It doesn't, because they
don't
are
think-
exposed
they're
to
so
so much. They
exposed.
are children can tell you more about sex than
Yes.
adults.
So just because you choose not to speak it, it doesn't mean that your child isn't being exposed
Right,
to it.
and you don't want them to be misguided by anyone
Right. In
else
fact,
putting it
I
in
had
their
I had
hands.
a situation with my own daughter last week where I felt the need to sit down and speak with her about sex, and you know, I decided in my mind, look, when she hear about sex, she can hear from me first.
Yes,
Because I want to present it in the way that God intended it to
yes. And like I said,
And-
it's a decent way to go about it. You don't want to
Right.
be raw with them and using all these,
Right,
words
you
what would
can
make
speak-
them so uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, sit down and use it as a family night and you
Yeah,
talk
because my
openly.
thing is, they can hear about it.
Right.
Either it can come from you, or it's going to come from the TV, or it's going to come from Facebook, or it's going to come from the internet. It's going to come from somewhere. They're just too exposed now. It isn't even like the way it was in our days. My son, I have 2 sons. He told me, point blank, listen, mommy, if I want to watch porn, it's like nothing. You know, before Cliff and I were talking, when we were growing up, it was like you had to actually go and search for a
Yes,
magazine.
but everything is
It's
right there on the
fingertips.
internet, and
Right.
everyone have the, you know, the internet is so convenient to everyone. It's right
Right.
at our fingertip because, like I said, everyone has a cell phone. The little babies have cell phone,
Yeah.
and they can go online and search
Yes.
YouTube and all these different
Yes.
sites. So
And
you don't want to
sometimes when
take
you're
these
not even searching. I was on
these
a site
pop-ups.
the other day watching a show, and something pornographic
Popped
popped
up,
up.
yes.
I was shocked because there was no reason for that to pop up. You know, I'm not a person that normally visits porn sites at all, so it was shocking to me that I was watching a regular show
And that showed
and
up.
that showed up.
Yes.
So it tells me, you know, our kids, you know, they be on Netflix, they be on Hulu, they be on all these different things. They are being exposed. So we have to educate them.
Yes, and another thing, parents, what I would encourage you, if your child has some extracurricular activities, you don't want to just leave them out there to catch a ride with this person, to catch a ride with that person,
Right.
to catch a ride. You know, try to ensure that your child has a ride getting to and from their activity
Someone you can trust.
with someone who you can trust, and ensure that it's someone who you can trust. If a child is saying to you that they don't want to go somewhere, and you know, every time they previously liked going to a particular place, and all of a sudden that they don't want to go anymore for whatever reason, you know, try to pry into that a little deeper.
And I was gonna, so that's on the, so that goes now to the second part of the question that I asked.
Okay.
We're gonna break in short order, but I don't want to break your trend.
Okay.
How, you know, what are some of the signs that maybe the child has been abused? Because one of the things I want to point out too is when I read this, statistically, 80% of sexual predators are known to their victims.
Yes.
So this tells us that it is those same people that you're mentioning, people that you may ask to give your kid a ride, somebody that your child may go to sleep by. I mean, we're not saying that in every movie. We're just saying that 80% of sexual predators are known
to the victim.
Which means it's people that we have in our lives, be it a family member, be it a friend, be it a coworker, be it someone in church, whatever it may be. It's people that we actually know 80% of the times that would end up hurting our child if something like that were to occur. So one of the things I want to ask, and you know what, we'll just break and then we'll come back to that. You can think on it. But I want to ask you, Sergeant Roll, what are some of the telltale signs as a parent that would alert me to the fact that, you know what, something is very wrong, or maybe my child has been sexually abused or touched inappropriately. So on that note, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. I want you to keep tuning in. We will be right back.
So, what's your fancy? Ladies, how about medium and wide with dress pumps, sling bags, flats, wedges, sandals, tennis, nursing shoes, career kicks, and Crocs? Men, check out our dress and casual shoes, tennis, cleats, sandals, work boots, and water shoes. And for children, dress shoes, casual, school shoes, tennis, cleats, sandals, ballet, jazz, christening, and bedroom shoes. So complete your look at Richie's Calypso, your #1 family-friendly footwear store.
Right. Okay, Facebook family, we're back. And this has been a very, very informative show. I think a show that every parent should watch. Anyone that feels that they're being, a child may be sexually abused, or a child themselves who's being sexually abused, this is really a show for us to watch. And Sergeant Latoya Roll has been here with me, and she was just telling us about parents being more responsible, because I had asked what is the greatest deterrent to trying to ensure that our children do not suffer at the hands of sexual abusers. And we've had some of our viewers chiming in. We have Janet Munnings, who's saying she must commend you, Sergeant Rule, because you're very professional and you are expressing yourself with great passion and care for our children, which we appreciate. And she said to me, Lady Bo, your show was on point. And Aretha's now saying, you know, informative show, love it. We have Dee Tamara, who's made several comments throughout the show. Awesome topic. So this is real education for us people. So let's suck this up and really use it so that we are our brother's keeper. And this can also help us as parents protect our children. So I was saying to you, you've already explained how it is as parents we can try our very best to prevent our child from becoming a victim. And then I was going to say to you, God forbid the child has already become a victim and that somebody has already abused your beautiful daughter or son. How do we now know, or what are some of the signs that you would say we can look for?
Okay, definitely, Mrs. Bo, their behavior would change. That's without a shadow of a doubt. Okay. Whether they are in agreement to what is happening or not, the behavior will change. For example, if your daughter was very vocal, like she was a chit-chatty person and always pleasant and friendly and out there, and once she starts engaging in sex, whether it's consensual or someone has molested her, you would find that she becomes very sheltered. She don't say much and she try to avoid you as much as possible. Now, sometimes we have our off days where we really don't want to be bothered. But if you see that that is a continuous act, then you need to dig deeper, sorry. Dig deeper into that. Definitely their behavior. You may have a child that who's controlled, who, you know, very passive, very, very easygoing, and then you recognize now that they become so unruly. They become very rude to you in the home. You're getting bad reports in the school. You need to look into that. Like I said previously in another comment, if a child is saying to you, and especially the younger ones, they're saying to you, Mommy, I don't want to go by Honey Jane's house. I don't want to go there. And they're using these lame excuses why you don't want to go there, whereas you know that they welcome any opportunity in the past to go into Honey Jane's house. You need to sit down with that child, and if you don't feel that you can do it, perhaps again you can reach out to the police, you could reach out to social services, you could reach out to school psychology, and you can get someone who can sit with the child to actually see what's happening with the child. If a child was a top A student and you see that their grades is declining day by day, something is wrong. Yes, we have challenges where as we elevate in the grade levels, you know, some of the work becomes more challenging. So you may have something slight, but it shouldn't be that you drop from a 3.5 to a 1.7. Something is definitely wrong there. If you drop, you're going to drop gradually. But if you have a, you know, something is wrong. So we say to the parents, and again, you cannot allow the children to grow themselves up. Okay, you cannot allow the children to grow themselves up. Yes, you want them to become independent. You want them to be able to make wise and sound decisions on their own. But we as parents, we have to do our part too. We can't just allow our children to go out. Our life is so busy that we're not paying attention to their needs. Because if you didn't foster an open relationship with your child, that they're free or feel comfortable to come and sit with you, you will have to find that abuse out somehow, some way, because they're not coming. If a child isn't comfortable talking to you, and if you shun the child every time they come, they definitely not going to feel comfortable coming to talk to you. And if you say to the child, oh, you're lying, oh, please don't do that. Even if you feel the child is not speaking the truth, still bring the child to the police, let the police, and if need be, if we feel that the child won't be open with us, and with the parents' permission, then we will allow social services to sit in on our interviews. So someone who is not related to the child, that they are comfortable in expressing themselves to us. Okay? If a child feels that the mommy loved the daddy, whether it be the mommy's husband or a boyfriend, as the case may be, and they would be more inclined to believe the male over them, the child not coming to you. So do not show your children that you're putting everybody over them or before them, because they're not going to be receptive in coming to you to report things. But behavior, Mrs. Bo, is the number one. Yes.
Okay, that's good information. And I just, want to take a moment to thank our partners, because all of this great information we're getting today would not be possible without the help of those in the community who believe in what we're doing. And today we want to say a great thank you to 5-Star Shipping again. And we want to thank Neil and his crew down there on Key Street for just putting their money where their mouth is. And 5-Star Shipping, ladies, we want you to go down there and support them for all your shipping needs. For us who like shop on Amazon and all these different places, and you can't afford to go to the States all the time, please go down to 5-Star Shipping. They do customs brokerage. They do courier services. They also do freight forwarding. So any type of shipping need, they have over 20 years of experience in the business. Check out 5-Star. And I want to say a great big thank you again to Richie's Calypso. All your footwear needs, people, go down to Richie's. From size 0 straight to size 15. And I want to say thank you to Simply the Best audiovisual services company, because if it were not for Simply the Best, you would not be able to see this show. So I'm so grateful that Clifford Bowe, who is also my dear husband, believes in what we're doing, believes in getting the information out there, and has volunteered his time and his equipment just to ensure that we can make the show a reality. So on that note, oh my goodness, Sergeant Latoya Rowe, we are almost out of time. I hope that, I was going to ask you quickly, we got to get this in real quick.
Then I want to offer some tips too.
Okay, no problem. You already spoke to the parent. What are the penalties, some of the penalties quickly for the offenders? So if somebody is brought before the courts and they're found guilty, what are some of the penalties? And I want you to say it, because I want the predators out there, because I know with a community this size, we got a couple and they may come across this show, just to let you know what the penalties are for you if you are found guilty of sexually abusing a child.
Okay, they made a change with the Sexual Offences Act a few years back. And for the most cases, all of them carry basically the same minimum penalty for first-time offenders. And the penalty, you can face a jail time minimum of 14 years.
Oh my goodness.
14 years. So please, we would like to discourage any person out there who may be thinking on preying on people or committing any form of sexual act, whether it's against children or adult. You're looking at about 14 years jail time. We had persons convicted with assault with intent to commit rape. That's attempted rape. You didn't get to rape the person, but it was your intent to do. You tried to do it, and their jail time was 14 years.
I think too, while you're saying that, it wasn't actually the direction that we had intended, but you brought it up early, and I'm glad that you did. It's important too to realize for young men and young women that for children under the age of 16, they can really be in danger, because sometimes you have a situation where you have a 15 or 14-year-old girl who's going with, let's say, an 18-year-old boy or a 17-year-old boy. I mean, he doesn't realize the danger in what he's doing by having a sexual relationship with this 14 or 15-year-old, because in many cases, I mean, she looks like,
yes, but
she looks very
ignorance
grown.
of the law is no excuse, my dear. If you're
but
dating
I'm only
someone,
saying, I think it's good to mention
yes,
to them also
if
that
they're
be
dating
careful
someone,
when you are dating, that you know the ages of these young girls. And I say be careful of it, because I ain't gonna lie to you, Sergeant. Most of these young girls, they look like young girls.
I agree, but
they're
like we
13,
always
14,
tell them,
they look like they're like 17, 18, and as a male, you may assume.
Find yourself in trouble, and we always tell them, my dear, even if it warrants you having to see an ID, an official government ID, if it takes that to save you from being hauled before the courts and remanded to prison, my dear, please do not just take, and I always discourage males anyhow. Why would you want to date a school-age child? I don't care if they told you they were 20. If someone is in school, allow these children to get their education. Right. I mean, dating time with you and them would be forever and a day until the world ends. Because you as an adult, whether you 18 or 19, why would you want to fool with someone in school? What can this person possibly do for you?
But you know, they let sexual desire supersede that.
Yes.
You know, and I just asked you to say that because I know I have 2 sons, and I always talk to them about that. You know, listen, be careful if you're gonna date any girls. Make sure that they're over the age of 16 or 17, because I would hate for my son to be hauled before the courts and to even face jail time because he had gone and had sexual relationships with a girl that he assumed was over the age of 16, and it turns out that this girl was only 14 or 15 years old. You know, so thank you for that information. And I'm just, as we continue to wrap up, you and I spoke about this off air, and this is a positive. I had asked you, you know, how has the sexual abuse crimes been during the last couple of years here in Grand Bahama?
Okay, I must say for the past few years, you know, our rates has not been so extreme and over the top. They've been moderate, and we're hoping to keep it that way. We find that through continuous education, we go into the schools, we go into the various organizations throughout the community, somewhat to sensitize people on the various forms of sexual assaults and some precautionary measures that they can take in and practice so as not to become victims. So we think that assisted us greatly.
Okay.
Also,
awesome.
You had persons over the past years being hauled before the courts and prosecuted and found guilty of sexual offenses related matters, and of course the jail time was not favorable for them. So I think that too serves as a discouragement for persons even wanting to commit an offense. So our numbers in Grand Bahama are not extreme, I must admit, you know, and things have been going relatively well.
Okay, that's good to know, and that's a positive. And I hope, like you said, based on all of the proactive measures that have been taking place, we as parents are more aware, and our children are more aware.
Yes.
And they're not as susceptible to being preyed upon. So on that note, Sergeant Roll, you said that there was some information before we end, because we're at the end of it. The time is gone, but you said that there's some information that you want to share with us, so please.
Okay, just want to leave with you some of safety tips for victims of sexual abuse. I know we spoke earlier about the reporting time. You know, your report time is really important because evidence is important. And once we're able to take you to the hospital to collect the evidence, you know, that will help us greatly with a case and with prosecution. So just some tips as we close. You know, if you are a victim of a sexual abuse, we encourage you to get to a safe place and tell someone. I give you the options. You can present yourself to the hospital.
And I was going to tell you, rephrase those options.
Yeah.
Social services.
You can present yourself to the hospital, the social services department, or the police department. You can contact the crisis center. Their number is 352-4357. Social services is 352-9851. The police 911 or 350-3106-9. Directly for sexual offenses is 350-3095. We are encouraging you. Even though this may sound weird, but we don't need you to touch or change anything at the crime scene, because we will have to revisit the crime scene. And again, evidence is important. Sometimes you have where the perpetrator may leave things on the scene, so don't try to clean nothing up. We will go back there and we will collect all of the relevant evidence from there. Okay, do not take a bath, do not brush your teeth, do not comb your hair, do not change your clothes. All of that will be done once you finish with your hospital examination. Then we're able to get you all clean up and you can change your clothes. But they are some of the things that we will need to collect from you. Okay, inform the police, or go to the hospital right away. Okay. We want you to always try to travel in groups. Don't try, especially with persons going out early morning for jogs and walk.
Okay.
I find sometimes, 2 o'clock in the morning, you have females walking along these dark roads,
Right.
alone. Please don't put
Yes.
yourself in harm's
Yes.
way. You want to always travel with a buddy or in group. You want to stay in control. When I say stay in control, do not go out and you know that you cannot hold alcohol and you become so intoxicated and you don't even have someone there who can help you out and ensure that you get home safely. So you're not in control of what happened to you.
You're not in control
Okay?
of your mental faculties.
You need to be assertive. You need to state what you want and be confident. And when you're saying no should not means yes. No is no. Make it clear to the perpetrator, especially when you're dating and stuff like that, just getting to know people. Okay, you want to use a confident voice and body posture. You need to watch for signs of trouble. If you find that every time you take a walk route, there's this particular person coming out and exposing themselves and stuff like that, you need to take note of that, and perhaps you need to call the police and so you can get some help and trust your instinct. Sometimes we have this, something doesn't feel right and we just throw it in the back of our head and ignore it. No, you want to go with that even if it seems little off. Don't think that you're being a nuisance. If it's a need to call the police, look, I'm on this road. Someone look like they're following me, and what should I do? And get proper guidance from the relevant authority, okay? And report unauthorized visitors. Sometimes, people would watch your home. If they see that generally you're home all the time in the day, they be coming to your house often, asking for water, asking to use the phone, asking to do that. If you feel that that person is doing it too much or too often, you need to call the police and report it. So we cannot overstate that we are here for you. The police department is here for you. Social services, we work hand in hand with them. They are here for you. Crisis center is here for you. So please, feel free. If you have any questions or concern, you can always reach out to us. And I am sure at the end of the conversation or the visit, you would leave with a better understanding of how we are able to assist you with a matter.
Okay, wow. You gave us so much information, Sergeant. I want to just thank you, Sergeant Latoya Roll, for being a part of this show today. Parents,
thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm grateful that you were here to share all of this information with us. And that's it. Our time is up. We're gonna have to invite you again for a follow-up visit. But we encourage you, parents. We encourage those of you who are unfortunately being sexually abused. Contact the police. Contact the crisis centers. Use the resources. Those of us who may suspect that a child is being harmed, please. We are our brother's keeper, okay? So we want you to use the information that you were given today to help transform the lives of yourself and of those that you may come into contact with. Once again, I want to thank 5 Star Shipping and Richie's for supporting the show and Simply the Best. So people, there you have it. Join me next week. Same time, same place, by the grace of God, and have an awesome day. So
So, what's your fancy? Ladies, how about medium and wide with dress pumps, sling bags, flats, wedges, sandals, tennis, nursing shoes, career kicks, and Crocs? Men, check out our dress and casual shoes, tennis, cleats, sandals, work boots, and water shoes. And for children, dress shoes, casual, school shoes, tennis, cleats, sandals, ballet, jazz, christening, and bedroom shoes. So complete your look at Richie's Calypso.